fiction plays a part in helping us work out things in our own lives?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I'm trying to think of an example of a book that's made me act differently or do something that I wouldn't otherwise have done or resolve an issue. And I'd say I can only answer on a personal basis. I don't think it has done. I can't think of a work of fiction which has dictated my behaviour or given me a solution to a problem that I've been wrestling with. No,
Well,
I can't. But can you?
Not a solution, but certainly an insight into why I've been particularly affected or upset, or made happy or angry by things in my life. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the main reasons for reading, actually. You read to make sense of your life and what's happened to you.
But actually to the point of helping you work things out in your own life.
No, to reflect. The better word's probably to reflect
Yeah.
on what's happened to you in your own life.
All right, I'll buy into that.
My name is Keith Stuart and I am the author of A Boy Made of Blocks. Here is an important lesson I learned fairly on about autism. The 1988 movie Rain Man, starring Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman, is not a documentary. Autistic children do not all have special powers. If I took Sam to the casino in Bristol, he would not be able to count cards and earn us a small fortune. Instead, the noise would terrify him, and he'd end up cowering under the roulette table until security removed me for bringing a child into a casino. He does have an interesting way of looking at the world though, which I try very hard to remember whenever the stress levels explode, perhaps when I'm making him put on the wrong coat, or because the plate of spaghetti that Judy has made for him is 2 degrees too warm. To Sam, the world is a gigantic engine that needs to function in a certain way with predictable actions in order to ensure his safety. Before he can relax, he needs to know the timings and movements of everything around him, and he must have one finger on the off button at all times.
The Richard and Judy Book Club has plenty of great offers in store and online, exclusive to WHSmith.
Some novels speak to you, some novels speak to you somehow far more directly than others when you know that the author is basing what you're reading on hard experience, real experience. Yes, it's a made-up story, but it rests on the planks of their life. And obviously this is one of those books, as we hear in the interview with the author. His own son is on the autistic scale. And the problems that he and his wife have encountered because of that, the issues that they have to wrestle with, the incredible difficulties in communication are what inform this book, and the solutions to that. I mean, this extraordinary computer game that in real life the author plays with his autistic son. And that, to me, as well as a piece of wonderful writing, it's beautifully written, makes the book almost savagely believable.
Yeah, A Boy Made of Blocks is about a relationship between a father who's finding it very, very difficult to cope with his autistic 8-year-old son, to the extent that he and his wife, the boy's mother, have had to separate because he simply can't cope. He can't cope with even taking him for a day out in the park, because he can't understand the child and the child can't communicate with him. And then he gets the idea that he might be able to communicate better with a particular kind of, what is it, IT game? I know nothing about that kind of stuff.
It's a computer game.
A computer game called Minecraft, which actually exists in real life. And because of playing this game together, they gradually find their way towards each other.
They have a common language.
Yeah, they have a common language and a common passion. They both love it. And the relationship becomes much easier and much more direct and much more simple, and the marriage is saved.
And did you find it particularly a male book? I mean, autism tends to be on the male spectrum, and computer games tend, lots of exceptions to this, don't sue me, tend to be male players. Did you in any way feel excluded from the book, given that it was
No, not at all,
very
because
masculine
it's
in that
about
way?
a child, you know,
Yeah.
and the boy's mother, Jody, is included. I didn't feel excluded at all. I don't understand the Minecraft stuff.
Oh, let me into a secret,
But-
neither do I.
But that doesn't matter, because what matters is what it represents to the father and the
Yes.
son. No, I thought it's a lovely book, very, very tender, funny, very warm, not tragic at all, very insightful.
Writing or reading?
Oh, reading. I'm sorry, reading. But it could be reading my own stuff.
Fact or fiction?
Faction.
Keyboard or pen?
Keyboard, definitely. I'm keyboard generation.
Writing in silence or with background noise?
I would say background music. I always write with music in the background.
Hard copy or e-reader?
Hard copy every time. Yeah.
Keep books or pass them on?
Allow other people to borrow them, but always get them back. So keep them, definitely.
Who reads your first draft first?
My wife reads everything that I write before anyone else.
What's your favourite genre?
Oh my goodness me. I would say maybe, oh God, literary drama stroke cyberpunk.
What's your favourite book?
My favourite book is, it's either Catch-22 or Jane Eyre.
Best thing about being a writer?
Getting to give people some of the pleasure that I have got from reading over the last 40 years of my life.
Welcome back to the Richard and Judy Book Club, and well, I guess this is one of the most original and absorbing novels that we've read this year. The writer Keith Stuart draws on his extraordinary experiences with his own autistic son to produce a deeply moving, very funny and utterly gripping story. And if you don't enjoy it, Judy and I are going to go out and buy hats and eat them. A Boy Made of Blocks is the story of Alex and Sam. Alex is Sam's 30-something dad, going through an uncertain separation from his son's mother, Jody. He's also about to lose his job. This is not a good time, not least because of his fractured relationship with 8-year-old Sam. And the author Keith Stuart is here now. Tell us about Sam. Tell us about 8-year-old Sam.
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, he is, to some extent, based on my own son, Zach, and the experiences in the book are reflected in there. But Sam is on the autism spectrum, and I suspect he would be called at that sort of higher functioning end of the autism spectrum. So he's verbal, he's social to some degree, but he still has problems kind of associating and identifying with the world around him. One of the big things with autism is there is this kind of barrier between a person on the autism spectrum and the rest of the world. They don't get the social cues that the rest of us take for granted, like body language and irony and, you know, the difficult kind of nuanced parts of communication.
You mean they take things very literally, so if you make an ironic comment or joke with your son, he thinks you mean it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he finds irony difficult. Yeah, very difficult. So yeah, I mean, if he's kind of getting it now, but yeah. So if you use a phrase like, "Oh, come on, pull your socks up," then that would for him be an instruction. For when he was younger.
I thought it's very interesting what you said about autism. In a way, it seems to you it is just an extremely censored version of the kind of general feelings of anxiety and confusion that are actually in all of us. But in an autistic child or an autistic person, they are. It's sort of deeply embedded in one place almost.
Definitely. I think because they don't, it's very difficult for them to deal with that anxiety. Like for the rest of us, we have means of coping with anxieties, and we're all of us suffer from anxieties. But I think everything is so kind of hyper accelerated in people with autism. They don't have the barriers that we have. Yeah. So in some ways, like people think of them. People on the autism spectrum as being kind of less feeling and less emotional, whereas it's probably the other way around. It's that everything, like, when I used to take my son Zach to school, it was so terrible because the environment was terrifying to him. All the noise in the playground, the uncertainty, the chaos, the confusion. He just couldn't deal with it.
Does he deal with it now, or did you send him to a different school?
Yeah, we moved him. In the end, we're lucky we live in Frome in Somerset, and we had a very small school nearby us, and we swapped him to that school, and it was surrounded by countryside, and it was really beautiful. I mean, we were so lucky. But that was such a gamble. We didn't know if that was going to work. We didn't know if it was going to help. It was just such a terrible time. You find this when you're parents, you suddenly realise that all of your choices suddenly become so much more important. Yeah. The stakes are just enormous.
Absolutely. So what's really interesting is that with an autistic person, particularly as they're developing and growing, is you have to find another way to communicate. The ways that we're talking now, as you say, allegory, irony, all the rest don't work. So you have to find, if you like, a sort of a new path pathway
Yeah.
to connect. And in the book, you do this beautifully. Because in real life you're the games editor of The Guardian, and you're fascinated by computer games and everything you can find on the internet and buy and download. And that's how Sam and his father start to communicate through this. What's the game called in the book?
Minecraft.
Minecraft.
So, yes.
Now Minecraft is a bit like being in Legoland with zombies,
Yeah.
isn't it? I mean, it's kind of effective.
That's effectively it, yeah.
Just describe it to the game.
So Minecraft is kind of the easiest way to describe it. It's almost like digital Lego. So you're when you start the game, you're in this beautiful, lush landscape, which is very blocky looking because everything's made out of blocks. But you're in this landscape.
Hence the title.
Yes, exactly. So and you can pretty much do when you're there. You can do what you want. You can build castles, houses. You can mine. You're given a set of tools. There are farm animals wandering the landscape. There are monsters as well, but you don't have to switch those on, which is another brilliant thing for some autistic children. But yes, so you're effectively a modeller in a landscape, which is there to facilitate your creativity.
And father and son in the book do this together.
Yes.
Then
yeah.
so it's a joint enterprise that they can work at together in real time and see a result at the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. Because in the book, obviously, Alex is kind of has to leave. Judy chucks Alex out essentially, and so
that's Alex's mum.
Yes,
I mean, not Alex's mum.
Sam's
mum.
wife. Yeah, that's it. So Alex's wife, Sam's mum, throws him out, and he's got to find a way to connect. And he finds out that Sam is playing Minecraft, and with video games, often they have online multiplayer modes. So they were able to find each other in a Minecraft world and work together. So
forgive my ignorance. I know nothing about internet games or whatever. But what's the end result? I mean, what's the point of Minecraft? Who wins? Does somebody win?
No, and in some ways that's the beauty of it.
Right.
It's just like if you're playing with Lego, then there's no winner in Lego. It's just the joy of creating things, and you can create incredible buildings in Minecraft. Like people have created the Starship Enterprise, or they've created King's Landing from Game of Thrones.
And how much do you have to know about how to do these things? I mean, do you have to actually have any working practice of architecture or anything?
You don't, no, because you're dealing with blocks that are all the same size. It's actually quite simple to start constructing things, and you learn as you go. Like most people will start by constructing a simple hut, and then they get a bit more ambitious. And there's lots of YouTuber personalities, people like Stampy Cat and Dan TDM, who make models, and lots of children now will watch them instead of like children's television, and they'll learn. So yeah, YouTube is very much kind of like the Blue Peter of the digital era.
God.
Do you think that digital games and computer games, for another expression, do you think that they're sort of changing the way our brains work? I mean, do you think that if we were to analyse your brain, I mean, you've spent sort of 2 decades
more
or more,
yeah,
okay, or 3. I mean, immersing yourself and understanding these games. Do you think if we were to do some kind of computer scan of your brain, it would be very
blocks.
Full of blocks. Very different from your brain if this was the 1930s and we were talking about novels or board games or Monopoly? Do you think?
I think, neuroscience is an incredibly complex area, and research has been done into this. But I think what it does do is give you a different way of understanding communication and relationships in some ways. When you have a relationship mediated through, like when you play Minecraft together, it completely changes the way you get on. You have a task, and you're with another human, but you're represented by figures, and it frees you in some ways. Like I really think, I call video games permissive spaces, which means they're places which allow you to experiment and explore, and it's free to do that.
Has your son read the book?
He hasn't. No, it's a bit advanced for him. But I sat down with him, and what the problem is, I tried to explain to him what the book's about, and that in some ways it's inspired by him. But as soon as I mentioned the word Minecraft, that's all he's interested in. So the conversation was instantly become
how
about
old
what
is
he's
he now?
built.
How old is his son now?
He's now 11. So
And
what are his prospects, would you say?
That's it's a really difficult question. We don't know. Like it's really, really difficult to tell. He's in a mainstream school, but he's kind of bouncing along the bottom of the grades, kind of getting by.
Yeah.
And we don't know. Like 2 years ago, we moved house to a slightly bigger house with a big cellar. And part of the reason we did that was because we thought we don't know if Zach's ever going to leave home, and we wanted to give him some independence. We've moved to a house that we can in the future extend the house and give him maybe a private area within our house.
As a young
And,
adult.
Yeah.
do you still play Minecraft with him?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
other games as well?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
my son. I've got another son called Albie, who's neurotypical, who's not on the spectrum, and they play a lot together.
Yeah.
But we still play together, and he plays other games as well. But there's something about Minecraft, I think, because there is no aim to it. It just allows you to explore and express yourself.
Yeah,
There's just something kind of beautiful about that.
Very
brilliant.
briefly, because we're almost at the end now. How long did it take you to write this fantastic book, by the way? I must tell you, one of the reasons it's on the list is because we were almost bombarded into putting it on the list. Because when it came out, so many people sent it to us. Friends, people in publishing said, "You've got to put this on your next list."
Oh, wow.
And indeed, it sold itself because it's there by merit alone. But it was heavily recommended. How long did it take to knock it out?
So it was about. I think I began it in April 2015 and finished the first draft by December the 1st. So I wrote the whole thing in pretty much 7 or 8 months while I was working full time at The Guardian. I still can't remember how I did it. And that's kind of a lost year. But yeah, it was a lot of early mornings, late nights.
Well, a little bird tells me you've got to go back to The Guardian this afternoon.
I do, yeah. They don't let me out much.
Then I'll wrap this up. A Boy Made of Blocks by Keith Stuart here. Fabulous story, as I said at the top, but we'll eat our hats if you don't enjoy it.
Very funny, very warm,
very
and very tender.
Very warm, tender and funny, absolutely. And as I always say at this point, if you get it from WHSmith's, whom of course is our partner in the book club, then you get unique content. You won't get that anywhere else. It's like a special edition. A question and answer session with the author that asks fresh questions from the ones we've discussed here. Lots of other things as well, all in the back of the book. Well worth going to WHSmith to get it. And thanks very much indeed, Keith. Lovely to see you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Keith.
Thank you. Thanks.
I've always loved reading, and I always wrote as a child just for a bit of fun. But when I started work on the wards, I found it quite distressing. And I learnt that I've either got to harden up or I've got to find a way of processing things. So I began to write.
There was one short story in particular that I wrote for a competition in, I think, 2008, and it got shortlisted, but it didn't get placed. And that short story became the first chapter of my first novel, Unravelling Oliver. I developed that short story into a novel because the characters in that short story just wouldn't leave me alone. And they demanded to be written about.
I don't know what inspired me to start writing. I've always written. I've written since I was a little girl. I find it's my way of making sense of the world, so I don't really have a light bulb moment where I became inspired to write.
The key inspiration for Boy Made of Blocks was definitely my own son, Zach, who is on the autism spectrum and did discover his creativity and his voice through playing Minecraft.
I always wanted to write. When I was at junior school, we used to have to do creative writing once a week, and the two best people got to read their writing out in front of the whole class. It was just the best thing.
I was inspired to become a writer, I used to think, because I failed as an actress. But looking back, I was writing even before I was acting in journals. I'm so grateful that I discovered it because I'm a much better writer than I was an actress, and it causes me much less anxiety.
Starting reading books and understanding that there was a world of fiction out there I could be a part of and actually create myself.
I share quite a lot. I write about myself and my feelings and my experiences. So quite kind of shameful stuff. But the one thing I'd never written about was the background to all of that, which was a history of mental illness.
Next time.
And when I go and write in my public library, it's nice to have the buzz of life around you. You also overhear hilarious conversations because a lot of old people go to libraries, and often they're with their grandchildren, so you hear things like a grandparent saying, "So did Daddy sleep on the sofa last night again?" and that kind of thing. And you hear all human life comes to the library, so it's very interesting, yeah. And you pick up little ideas for stories and characters there.
Liz Nugent has penned a tense thriller, and we'll be finding out much more about her novel, Lying in Wait, exclusive to WHSmith.
Yes, do come back again to get an insider's guide to writing a top-selling page-turner. We're going to have plenty to keep you entertained too on the next Richard and Judy Book Club podcast.
There are great offers in store and online for all the titles in the Richard and Judy Book Club, exclusive to WHSmith.